A few months ago, we were invited to be part of a panel from Music Cares that included touring professionals, concert promoters, artists, and business owners, and how they've pivoted in 2020. Here's a look back at that conversation.
Yes. First off, thank you guys. Thank you, Music Cares. Thank you, Danielle, for making me a part of this panel. We got some great guests, and it's a great conversation that I'm really excited about having, talking about pivoting, because during this time, I got this whole deal I call having a healthy relationship with your identity. And for a lot of us in the music community, I know for me, I was on a tour bus in March, and I was heading from Atlanta to Detroit, and they turned the bus around and we went back home. The whole tour was canceled. I'm a drummer. I play with Little Big Town. More importantly, I'm a father of 6, married father of 6. And immediately my income was stripped away. No in-town work, tour's over. And then it's kind of like, well, what are you going to do? And I chose not to sit around and wait for some government assistance or something like that, although I do welcome it. I think it's been a great time because I was forced to answer the question, like, what is my identity? Who am I? What am I doing? And what do I want out of my life moving forward? Now that I see, my livelihood was taken away. So when our identity is stripped away, suddenly that's a form of trauma. And if we don't get on top of it, if we don't bring awareness to it, it leaves room for depression, and we're not putting out, great energy. Our effort is not there. Our relationships start to fail. So to get ahead of everything, I thought it was very important that I established a healthy relationship with my identity. So for me, I came into music after playing college football, and I've been always just really attracted to personal development, and I'm a believer in coaching. So I said, you know what, I'm going to start my coaching business. The time is now. And a few awesome things happened from that. Number one, I wasn't so focused on myself. I was focused on where else can I add value. And that's been a blessing for me and my family. I've been able to work some and build it. And I've been able to just build so many new relationships and do some awesome things that I never would have been able to do if I hadn't pivoted or changed my, identity or just reassessed. So this time has been great. I want to go around and just ask you guys, what has the pivot looked like for you, and what are you doing now? Where did you come from? I guess we can start with Mike.
Hey everyone, I'm Mike Taylor. I'm with CTS. We're located down here in Cool Springs, Brentwood, Tennessee. One of the things that was crazy about all of this time when it happened was that we felt fortunate enough to we felt like we were thinking about some of this coming forward. We were looking at creating a studio within our own place that we could do product unveilings, things like that, have manufacturers come in. We were looking at ways for reaching like a broader base of customers, or just to be part of like a conversation, like just to have the conversations. We work a lot within the church market. We work a lot within the corporate market. And so we started, back in January, building out a studio with plans of doing some more of that this year. Who knew, right? Like that this was going to change the way it changed so drastically. So fortunately for us, we felt like we were ahead of it. So when we went into March and we went into 6 weeks of planning, we kind of laid out like, what's the curriculum? What do we want it to look like? What do we want to be seen as? So, for us, we're an audio, video, and lighting company, and we're used to touring, and we have a full staff. At the time, we had 45 full-time staffers here, and since then, we've had to go down to 28, and that's been heartbreaking. There has never been a time where I've enjoyed letting someone go, whether it's for capabilities or attitudes or anything like that. That's not fun, and this was an even worse time because we were letting people go at a time where there was no other work for them, unfortunately. And so that was really heartbreaking. So you speak of of the uncertainty of the not knowing and of the losing control. Like like we never have control, right? But this time, we really all really felt like, wow, we really do not have any control. And so we've been fortunate enough to keep 28 employees, on salary during this time. And that's kind of, while we feel like we're not as busy, I look around and I'm very aware that some of my friends are even less fortunate than we are right now. So
That's good. That's great, Mike. You guys have pivoted. Sarah.
Hey, hi everybody. My name is Sarah Potenza, and I'm a singer and a songwriter here in Nashville. And I do kind of small time stuff compared to people like Little Big Town. I'm very, very indie. I run my own business. It's very like, I don't know if you guys know who Ani DeFranco is, but it's like that very like put out my own records, do all my own touring, do all my own, hiring of people, and everything's really just my husband and I. Sometimes we do duo shows and other times we have a full band. And, we did have a whole year of stuff booked. It initially was like, oh, we're going to have to cancel March. Okay. Like, what does that look like financially? And, we were supposed to be in Colorado on the weekend of March 15th, which was my 40th birthday. And instead I spent it going to Costco with like masks and gloves, it was just so crazy. Cause when you go to leave the house, you eat through everything. So we were like, we had nothing, initially I what you said, Hubert, was really, really spoke to me because this has been my identity since I was a kid. Who are you? Well, I'm a singer. And that's what has made me feel like me. That's what made me feel proud to be me. That's what I've identified as, my whole life. And also my marriage I'm married to my guitar player. So our marriage is really also very all tied into this. And it's really been such a transformation to kind of start to think about who am I outside of that. And also getting off the road, which is something that, we would tour a ton. And it was small shows. It was shows like, a city winery, like not a big, huge thing. So it was really gratifying. But at the same time, when you're out there playing those clubs and you're trying to, draw people, and it's all about like, oh, we got an update on tickets and we need to do this, we need to post that. It's just nonstop cycle of booking and trying to fill seats and, what's next? So it was really cool to kind of stop and think, what other things do I want to do? What are things that I've always wanted to do? Like I have always wanted to have a show on YouTube, but I've never had like time to do that. So now I have this time and I'm creating this show called Jammy Jams where I sing songs in my jammies. It's just been kind of cool to get to do that. And it's also been really cool to get to learn how to work with, started to learn to work with songwriters and other people from at home. So I had to teach myself how to use GarageBand. I had to teach myself how to, people will just send me the vocal stem and like learning how to do all these things. And I was able to record and make like demos and work with other songwriters and have them work with me and send them stuff that I never dreamed I would have been able to do. So I really feel that I've learned so much in this time, although emotionally it has been a bit of a struggle, I think, for all of us.
That is awesome, Sarah. I think we got to bring attention to, if you think about Mike and Sarah, it seems like they're both excited about a skill set that they're building that they never would have if it wasn't for, COVID.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So that's awesome.
I bought a Nord, and I was like, man, I always have wanted to be better at this. So when I go play shows, I can like play this if we do a duo show. And now I practice every day, and it's crazy that to have the time because you don't have an excuse.
Yeah,
you got the time.
right. If you're not gonna do it now, when?
Yeah,
the
I
time
mean,
when.
you got the time. Maybe you don't.
Yeah.
You got 6 kids. But I got the time.
Well, those kids got to eat, so.
That's true. Yeah. You got to make the time.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome, Sarah. So, Todd, how are you, bud?
Hey, my name's Todd Mayo, and I own the Caverns, which is an underground music venue located in Pelham, Tennessee, and we produce a television show that airs nationwide on PBS called Bluegrass Underground. And COVID hit us, like everybody else, like you were saying, Hubert, turn that bus around. You know what I mean? It's like it hit us like a ton of bricks. It was one day we had 75 shows scheduled for this year. The next day, we started out and said, well, we're going to reschedule. We'll move these shows from March until April. This will last about a month. And then it was into May. And then you're rescheduling your reschedules. And at some point, like all y'all here, it hit you. It hit us like, man, this is a new situation. And how am I going to deal with it? And Hubert, I did like what you say. There's, from a headspace, this has been a global event that everybody's had to come to terms with. And on a personal level, I was sort of born optimistic, raised optimistic, and I choose to be optimistic, right? Nature, nurture, and choice. And that's helped me out. But I can see how people that struggle with the depression or anxiety, they say depression is worrying about the past, anxiety is worrying about the future. Shit, I was worried about the past and the future. And it was, so I have empathy for people that have struggled in those ways. But what we did at the Caverns, we pivoted. There was another cave that we had already intended and were working on taking tours in. It's called Big Room Cave. There's one room that's like 3 football fields long. And so we started doing tours on July 4th. And, it was nice because there's an hourglass, and it ain't sand that's running out of it, right? It's money. And, when you're in a cash flow business like we are in the music industry, as a venue and as a promoter, man, it's always Peter to Paul, and you're always working on thin margins. And so to go into a negative cash flow situation, I told my accountant, I said, I'm not being an ostrich with my head in the sand. I'm perfectly aware of what's going on, but I can't sit around and think about this on a day. I can't watch that hourglass. I've got to do something. So on a personal level, to your point, Hubert, I've got kids and family, and it was sort of like a perspective check. I got a roof over my head. I got food in my stomach. Okay, now what's next? And so we were thankful and lucky to have some things sort of go our way. A guy sent me, there was a pod-based, socially distant show that they did in Gisborne Park in the UK. And a guy sent it and said, dude, this looks like the Caverns. Have y'all thought about doing this? And this was in July. And we started looking at it. I said, damn it, that doesn't look like the Caverns. So we go outside, first walking it off. Now we're bringing a wheel. Now we're walking through the woods, coming out with, ticks and everything. But we said, I think we've got an amphitheater here. And so we started moving dirt and moving earth. And this ain't but about 6 weeks ago. And by God, this Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, they say if you build it, they will come. With us, it was if they come, we had to build it. So we booked Jason Isbell and the 400 unit for 4 nights, sold it out just in that quick. But we didn't have it done yet. So I mean, we're literally you can see the background here, but I'm basically living up at that cave right now, and we've created what's going to be the Caverns Amphitheater. We're going to be able to have 1,000 people socially distanced in a pod-based model. It's like a VIP. Every single week we mark it off. You get there, you get your concessions on an app. You come and sit down. There's your bucket with your beer. There's your merch. Everybody's got their mask. You can take it off when you're in the pod. And it's a whole pivot for us to be able to hopefully build a bridge between where we're at, which is a pretty shitty situation, and where we're trying to, in order to thrive in not a post-COVID world, because there is no post-COVID, it's here to stay. But whatever the new normal is, in order to thrive, then you have to survive. And we think this is going to do that for us. So necessity has been the mother of invention for sure.
That is awesome. That is really exciting, Ty. Can I come play in your venue, please?
Yeah. Give me a shout, man. It's an epic cave.
That is awesome. I think we need to also note that everyone here so far, no one has abandoned what they were doing, right? So when things come back, everyone, this time will just have been a time of growth. And it's almost like either double, triple your business. You know what I mean? No one has abandoned their identity. It's just more of being aware of it and adding to it.
That is exactly what it's like with me with the YouTube thing. I'm thinking, well, all these people who see me on YouTube, they're gonna come to my show.
Exactly, and that's awesome. Zito,
Yes.
how you doing, bud?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Great.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me, guys. 21 years I've been touring in the entertainment industry. It's all I've known. Worked for your employers years ago, over 10 years ago, worked for a little big town. And
Awesome.
I've been hustling 300 days on the road the last 5 years, from tour to tour, artist to artist, some at the same time. Last year I was with Ariana Grande and a TSO. This year I was supposed to be out the whole year. I was out doing a DJ act. Steve Aoki was going right into Blink 182 and into Trans-Siberian Orchestra in the fall. Was out on tour. Yeah, rock and roll, right? Those guys. So was out, and the same thing. Didn't know what it was going to be. Heard about this thing far off in the distance happening in China. 2 days later, our bus is headed home. We think, well, we're going to all go back to work in April. Well, maybe it's May. Maybe it's June. I need to stay busy. My headspace, I have to stay focused. And so I said to my wife, I'm going to use this time like it's a gift. I want to be able to account for it. I want to go however long this is, a month, 2 months, 4 months, and say, I don't know what I do with my time. So I was planting the garden. I've always wanted to have a garden. I've never been home for it. And I've always been into baking and cooking and was doing tons of that and experimenting. And I was doing tons. I'd been doing last year a little bit when I was home, some sourdough stuff. And so I was doing that earlier in the year. And my wife was like, well, the bread's cool, but I'm kind of sick of, how many loaves of sourdough bread can you make? I'm like, obviously hundreds. Be like, I want to redo this. I didn't like this. I want to do this one again. So I was doing all sorts of other things, other baked goods with it. And for Easter Sunday, I made sourdough cinnamon rolls. And we thought they were pretty incredible. My wife posted a picture on her Instagram, and a little picture of the cinnamon rolls that said yeast has risen and the little Easter pun. And people were blowing us up. Those look amazing. So she made a little logo, Z Bakery, hence Zito. And we thought, well, maybe we'll see if we can sell them, because I was selling the bread in our subdivision. And the first weekend we sold 83 and kind of freaked out. And next weekend was like 100. And I was like, well, we don't have enough pans. I don't know how to, I've never, made like this before. We went and bought some more pans. And by the third weekend, we had sold over 200. So we thought, we might be onto something. So in the very beginning, we decided that, as a production manager, I hire the crew. Mike, I relate a lot to what you were saying, how you feel responsible for these guys, the ones that you work for, that you give employment to. As a production manager, I hire all of the crews that work for me. And so I feel responsible for them. I want to give them work. And so when I couldn't do that, it really hit me hard. And so I told my wife, I want to partner with somebody, with an organization that's actually helping people. And so from the very beginning, we made a conscious decision that no matter what, we were going to make a donation from every roll of Music Cares, because I know people, specifically people that I know, crew guys that have worked for me, musicians that they've helped specifically. So that's what we did from the very beginning. We started donating to Music Cares. That was just back in May when we started selling them. As of this past weekend, we've sold over 14,000 cinnamon rolls that I've rolled by hand, every single one. And we'll be over $10,000 in donations this upcoming weekend for Music Cares in just a few months. So feel really, really blessed to be able to do that.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Wow. Number one, you made me really hungry. And that is awesome, man. That is so awesome. So that brings me to my next question. If I asked you guys, knowing if you knew the pandemic was coming in March and you were leading up to this point, would you have done anything different prior pandemic to prepare for a time like this? Because one thing I heard that was pretty common, I think as musicians and anybody who works in the entertainment music industry is really creative. We have an upper hand because we've dreamed before, right? We've spent many years in a room dreaming about what we wanted to do, building a venue or playing in front of these people and, sharing our artistry. We developed those skills in the dark for years before. So it's just another time to dream, right? But if I asked you guys, what would you do different before the pandemic, knowing how it is now that we're aware of what it's like to take losses and have things stripped away and have to, pivot and make another move? So, Zito, you got something? What would you do different?
Probably wouldn't have fully funded my retirement accounts like March 10th. That probably wouldn't have happened. That one kind of stung about a week later. Yeah. Other than that, for me personally, I don't know that I would have done anything different. I had some great mentors early on that taught me about saving and planning and always having an emergency plan, emergency fund. And so I haven't planned not for a pandemic, but for extended periods of unemployment, because that's how it is going between tours and shows. Right. And so, that was all part of my plan. And I just didn't want to sit still. So I fell into it. I'm thankful for it. I don't know that I specifically would have done anything different, because I think that's one of the beautiful things about life. Adapting, changing, overcoming, always being something different. Right.
Mike, you said you've been able to retain 28 employees, which is amazing. Man, kudos to you. Being a leader, do you feel like there's something that you would have done different before this time?
Golly, it's so hard to say, right? Like, golly, to look back at it all, I think that for the first time, and we're an AVL house, so we're constantly purchasing new equipment and things like that to stay up with technology, but we're pretty much trying to do that like right on time, right? We don't want to do that really far in advance. And this year was finally that year, I think, where most companies were probably looking, actually all of the companies in Nashville, they were in for like the best year of business they've ever been gonna have, right? And so we were looking at it, and finally we decided we were gonna pull the trigger on some purchases this year, and they were gonna be the big ones, right? You know, some of this product sitting behind me right now in the LED world that showed up in the middle of April.
It looks great though.
Yeah, right? So it's hard to say, because those things I think are still gonna be really beneficial for us going forward. And if we're able to weather this storm of payments that we have to make it through right now, that'd be great. People was the other one for us that we were on the target of, we were just adding people like crazy to take care of business, right? And if we had known that was going to be coming, it would have been nice to let people know a little bit further out in advance that this was going to be coming. Because when we hit March, we all said, all right, everyone, we got you. This is it. We're all in this together. And then real quickly, we realized that wasn't going to be the case. We could either shut the doors for everybody, or we could start making some really hard decisions. And I wish we could have given people a better heads up for that, to go find something, whether in this market or whether in a different market, that kind of would take care of them and their families. So those were the most crushing parts of it.
So Mike, that was the answer probably to my next question, because I think it actually helps for us to see. Well, I know it helps me when I talk to one of my buddies and I'm like, man, you know what? I can't get too down about this because they're going through the same thing. Or they tell me, as being a coach, the last few months, the conversations that I've had, it's crazy what people deal with, and it makes my heart bleed, and it also motivates me to help more. But obviously for Mike, letting people go was probably the hardest part, right? For you guys, what would you say has been the toughest part of this time? I guess we can start with maybe Todd.
Sure, I'll jump in. We have a small crew. There's 6 of us that are full-time employees, and we didn't furlough anybody. And so we're keeping everybody going, and everybody's pivoting. So when we opened up the new cave and started doing tours of the music venue and the new show cave, brought everybody together. I said, hey, y'all, we're all tour guides, right? So we're going to go give tours of the cave. So we did that, and so 2 days a week I do it. Everybody does it. We're all working on other things. And it's like, well, let's figure out what we can do and do that. But it's just, it's been hard. Like Mike said, the caverns, I've been doing shows in caves for 10 years, 11 years, but I didn't own my own cave. So in 2017, I literally found a wild cave and turned it into the cave of my dreams. And we're just on year 3. And this was going to be the first year we were to be profitable. And that's hard. We've built this sort of as epic as Red Rocks and as intimate as the Ryman, a destination, venue that people come from all over the country, even all over the world for. And we provide this great experience. And, that just comes to a complete stop. It's tough as far as what I would change. I probably would have built that amphitheater, but that's hindsight a little quicker, right? Maybe bought a lot of Netflix stock, shorted a Live Nation stock. We're talking about Back to the Future type shit now. But it's been a challenging, trying time for us and for everybody. And it's kind of like Zito said, you can just deal with the times that you're in and figure it out the best that you can. And we're all doing that together. And I will say that, one thing that's been interesting to see with fellow colleagues in the music business, you have agents and promoters and there's sort of an adversarial relationship or whatever. But I've seen a lot of people come together in this industry as human beings. And had many wonderful conversations with folks for sometimes because we had the time to do it. Usually you're just blah, 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 hang up the phone, blah, 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 and you just go along like that, but nice long conversations with people as human beings, empathizing and going through this situation together. And that's wonderful. That's something that it's just been great.
Yeah, that's dude, you're a great salesman for your venue. I'm very excited about it. I'll tell you that much. But Sarah, what would you say has been the toughest thing about this time?
The toughest thing is to not be on stage because I'm a diva. Like I'm a big, when I sing, I go on stage, I throw it down. And it is, whether it's for 5 people, 500, 5,000, 50, it doesn't matter. For me, I realized a long time ago in this business, that I could not control the crowd. I couldn't control whether or not it was an outstanding night or whether or not, for whatever reason, someone else was playing in town and their show eclipsed stars or whatever. And so I kind of really worked really hard to separate my own ego from the the draw of the show. Yeah. And I think something when you're in the business early on, especially, that you need to be able to do to make it through a lot of those kind of nights. And so for me, I really developed this relationship with the stage because I could control what I did on stage.
Yeah.
So because of my need to control, and I couldn't control that thing that I wanted to control, I decided I can control this. And so I really started giving everything on stage, and it became very spiritual for me to release that energy that had been pent up, whatever it is that I'm going through currently or had gone through in the past. I'm a very emotional person, and being able to get all that out. So I really miss that. Just, I think as a singer and probably playing the drums too, you have a very physical thing that happens, and it's like having this airplane that you can't fly, Yeah. It is very frustrating for me to sit around, and play piano and guitar, but want to be in front of my band, giving everybody everything. And I can't do that right now. So that has been really hard for me. And also I am the type of person that is very driven to be active. Being active is something that keeps me from feeling anxious. And I struggle with anxiety and depression and the being on the go and having a project, something that I can pour myself into. And it's always been my career. And so kind of shifting that has been really amazing for me, but it definitely a struggle to get started. Because initially this whole thing was so, oh my God. So I guess I would say the hardest thing is missing the stage. And I suppose it's been good. I've been doing a lot of songwriting, so that's good.
Yeah.
I'm going to be ready. And the one thing that really I was so blessed to have was I put out my last album in 2019.
Yeah.
So I'm like 2021, 22. That's fine. I know a lot of people that hadn't, they put out an album in 2016, 2017, and here they were ready to put out a record. And it's like, do you want to wait? What do you want to do? So I feel very fortunate that the timing lines up so that I could kind of be creative during this time, and the fruits of that labor will be just right in time when it's time to do that again.
So that's interesting. You're talking about how the creativity, we started off, you're telling me about the toughest thing, and it ends up with the creativity and being thankful for it. I know for me, I was living my dream. I tell people all the time, pre-pandemic, I was playing with Little Big Town. Little Big Town started when I was in high school, and I get to play drums for them, and they're amazing. And they've changed my life, and it's been awesome. But when that ended, I found myself like, okay, I need to stay creative, because if I'm not moving forward, that's when, bad thoughts, bad narrative starts to set in, right? So everyone here, everyone's talking about their pivot with a smile on their face. So my question is, what about those people who can't? It's really tough to be creative, right? So what would you guys say was what helped you be creative during this time when things don't look well, right? We don't even know. When is the vaccine available?
We don't know.
Should I take it?
It's so hard to not know what's going to happen.
Right.
But I would say to people who are not feeling creative, and I was going to mention this, you don't have to be. You have no responsibility.
That's good.
To emotionally, to spend this. The only thing you have to do during this time is stay safe and survive. And you do not have a responsibility to yourself or to anyone else to have to create this thing. Like, I have to write a book. I have to write an album. But I will say that it helped me to get back in that mode. It's almost like I wake up every day and get dressed, put on some makeup, and I feel better even if I'm not leaving the house. And what helped me become more creative was I kind of have two modes, input mode and output mode. And you cannot go on output mode unless you have been on input mode. And input mode, I think of it almost like that. Even though you think I'm not doing the work right now because I'm just listening to Taylor Swift's new album, I'm not doing the work right now because I'm just I just am reading a book and taking a nap. Sometimes the work is to just stay on the charger.
Yeah, because you got to eat. Right?
So
you got to eat. That's good.
You have to. So sometimes the work is just to take in the world around you, because if you are on output mode all the time, you won't have anything to say. So right now it's kind of a really great time because you do have the time to spend an entire day making a Spotify playlist of new music that you've discovered that you love, instead of, I have to send all these emails and do this, that, or the other. You actually can spend an entire day doing that, and no one's going to be like, what'd you do today?
Yeah.
So that's been, for me anyways.
That's awesome. Zito.
Yeah.
You've kind of pivoted to more food, and it didn't seem like it would have come out of your skill set. No. But how do you like stay up creative wise as far as that? What's the trick? Well,
I'll kind of go exactly what Sarah said. The challenge for me, like coming out of there were some definite challenges for me being home, never been home this much. What do I do with my time? My wife and I, we've been married 10 years. We've never been together this much. And so instead of focusing on those things, I wanted to focus on staying active and, as I mentioned earlier, having skills and pouring into them. And I don't mean this to sound cliche. I never set out to be a baker. This wasn't a passion. I like to bake and cook, but it wasn't a dream. This wasn't like the dream of my wife and I. Hey, if we ever have time, let's start a bakery.
Yeah.
This kind of fell into our laps, and the charge of working, that we took on of working with Music Cares and helping others, became something that we shouldered. And so as we moved along into this, and we hear from people all the time, multiple people a week, will reach out and send us a note or an email about how they're encouraged by what we're doing and seeing the pivot. And there's days I don't want to do it. I mean,
Right.
where it's work. People do not realize. I would have had no idea the amount of hours that we put in. I mean, there are tour days. We're in the bakery 4:35 in the morning. We're getting out 11 o'clock at night, 3 or 4 days a week, plus then every other day. Like Sarah was saying earlier, with hustling for the show and look at the numbers and, let's get online, let's post, let's connect with people, let's let them know what we're doing. It's all the time. And it wasn't something I set out to do. My wife and I never set out to be in a business together, but this is what we found ourselves with. And so we feel extremely fortunate to have this, that we can pour effort and energy into it, that we know we're doing good. There's probably 6 or 7 people that have said, hey, we always wanted to do this and this business, whatever. And we started it because we were inspired by you. That to me is what truly does drive us on and forward, those two things, and knowing we're helping people and knowing that other people are looking to us for motivation.
That's awesome, Zito. It sounds like what you're saying is, and this is a great hack, a good tool for us all. You chased your principles. You didn't know exactly what you wanted to do, but when you were on pause, you said, well, what's important to me? Giving back to Music Cares because you feel great about the work that they do, and you like, this is my skill set. You identified your skill set, and you were just open and you just stuck to your principles, and you came above water, and now you're just being super valuable to a lot of people. So that's awesome.
What I do for a living, I deal with logistics. I move large scale shows around the world. It's complicated, and there's not a lot of guys that can do it. So baking. And going from baking 63 rolls a weekend to baking 1,400 rolls, it's a matter of scale and logistics. So I took the same skills and principles that I would do in touring and how to be efficient. The other day we were in the kitchen and we were doing a special edition roll. We do them once a month, and it was an apple caramel crumble roll. And it has tons of steps. And so I set everybody up. Here's what we're doing. We're laying them out on the counters. You're going to come through, put this. You're going to open the containers. You're going to do this. You're going to come behind, close the lid. You're going to move them in the box. And I set it up, and the operator of the kitchen was like, wow, I can see what makes you good at your job. I've never seen anybody direct something like that. And it's the same boxes. I'm ticking the same things for me. And that's, that is cool because I do enjoy that part of it for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I get super excited when I start seeing transferable skills or people noticing their transferable skills, because it goes back to identity. We can't be so locked into what I do is who I am. That's right. What you do is just a part of who you are.
Yeah.
And those skills that it took you to be successful at whatever you do, if you can identify your transferable skills and chase your principles, it's limitless, right? And the only game is, can you dream again? So that's super encouraging. Mike.
Yes'm.
What would you say? Just piggybacking off of what we're talking about. Zito got me really excited, man. I'm sorry. I love that.
I could take all of this stuff and I can throw it out the window for one single reason, and that was because I got to spend a lot of time with my family. There's a guy who, and I don't travel like a touring engineer or anything of that nature, but my weekends are tied up with a lot of phone calls because that's when my clients are working. And so that's when I'm, not really available. And there was a moment where when this first shutdown happened, I was like trying to scramble, figure out how are we going to do this? How are we going to make something out of nothing? Who do I got to reach out to? I found out I was having the same conversation too many times. And my daughter came in and she said, Dad, will you push me on the swing? And I said, no. And like it dawned on me, why on earth am I telling her no? And it became the season of yes, right? My wife, she had an essential business, and so she had to go focus on that, which then put me in the mommy role of being home to take care of everything. And I loved it. I tell you what, I loved every minute of it. I got to do the homeschooling with the kids. It was not frustrating. I got to push them on the swing. Down here in Tennessee, nothing was shut down like it was where my mom lives up in Pennsylvania. So we went to the park every day. Get your schoolwork done. Let's go out. Let's do things. And I really got to embrace just being home with my family. It was a shift. It was a big shift for me. I'm very aware I had the security of a full-time job. you know, where we
Yeah.
live and who I get to be in my community. But like, I loved being with my family during that time, you know?
So that's awesome. That's awesome, Mike, because it seems like what you're saying is this has been an opportunity to kind of like reestablish priorities and then put energy there. And if this time would have never happened, how many of us would have kept going down the same road, actually putting time and energy into a priority list that we don't even agree with, right? And I mean, I was guilty of that. I mean, I just like Zito, I've been married almost 10 years. Me and my wife, five of our babies are under 8, and I've been touring the whole time. So I hadn't been home enough to be there. Like Mike was talking about, doing those things that you just appreciate, like going swimming and just hanging out. And my son just sitting in his room while he beats me in Madden every night. I can't beat him. But it's been great. But I got another question for you guys. Kind of piggybacking off of what Mike was talking about. During this time, you have had to answer, why am I here? Like, so if you guys could just share your answer to the question, why? Like, why am I here? Because I think that'll help a lot of people with, you know, where they're putting their energy, where they don't need to be putting their energy, what they're thinking about, what they shouldn't be thinking about. So if anyone wants to talk about your why and how that's been adjusted, or maybe it stayed consistent. Like, this was my why, and I felt more strongly about why I was doing everything I was doing during this time.
I'll jump in on
Yeah.
that a little bit, Hubert. Dovetailing with what you're asking, and then what we were talking about before with how do you take your skill set and your ability to dream and the why are we here, and all that sort of coalesced together for me with a project that I'd had sitting on the shelf for 3 years. And I say, like, my future self was speaking to my present self and look, you need to do this. And so I thought about that. And I believe in the power of music to bring people together. And on the cavern's door, it literally says that in Sequoian script, which he was the great Cherokee Indian, but it says, "Welcome to the caverns, where the Great Spirit brings all people together through music." And
That's
Sarah,
awesome.
you play on a show that I co-created, Music City Roots, and that's what that was all about. They called it the Grand Alt Opry. But anyway, I just think about my why and my kids and my family and all the different things. And what my future self was saying was, how are you going to use your time and talent during this time to make a positive difference in the world? So I just produced a pilot television show here from my barn. I live in a special place. Behind me here is Cash Lane. There's 6 different country music Hall of Famers that lived in this property. June Carter wrote Ring of Fire here. And, you know, Johnny loved everybody, and Johnny loved everybody, right? The hippies and the Christians and the prisoners and the freaks and everybody. And so I've got this magic barn down yonder. And so I'm doing a show called Ear to the Common Ground. And the premise is this: you take one artist on each episode and 16 of their fans. And a third of the fans have never voted for a Democrat, a third have never voted for Republican, and a third have voted for both. And you have half men and half women, and white people and black people, brown people, Asian people, gay people, straight people, urban people, rural people, Christians, Jews, agnostics, and spiritual people. And everybody brings a dish. And you sit down over these barn tables I have, and you talk about the issues of the day. You talk about polarization or Black Lives Matter or whatever, and you do it and replace conflict and contempt with compassion and empathy. And that's something that, so we just did a pilot. We'll see what happens from it. I do a lot of productions for PBS. It could end up on PBS. It could end up on a network. Or I said, hell, I could put it on YouTube and it'll get 13 views and 4 comments, and they're all from trolls. I don't care. I'm doing it. And so I'm doing it, and we did it. And so it's a perfect example of kind of what you're saying. Is like, you know, why am I here? What can I do to make the world a better place? What can I do when you sit down with your children and think about this world and the power of music to bring people together. So I thought I'd pipe up with that.
That's awesome.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
Super cool.
Yeah. Zito, how do you feel about why?
Well, you could ask
Why?
that question all the time, but I think I kind of said it earlier. For me, I identified my need to have a purpose, and I identified my need to be productive. And as being a person that I love touring. It has been my life. It is what I identify with. I miss traveling in ways I can't describe. Actually, for a lot of the reason that Todd just said, I've been all over the world. I've toured in over 80 countries now, and I've had meals and beers with people of every type of faith and color and creed, late night bars and street markets across Asia, and talked about life. And I've always said you can't have a worldview until you've seen the world. And the more I've seen the world, the more open I've become to just understanding there's lots of people in the world. So anyways, I've missed all that, but I identified that I wanted to change my perception of how I was viewing this time, because I've been gone for so long. I've always said, I don't have time to do this. And now all I've had is time. And so I really chose very early on to look at it as a gift, and just really be able to account for it. That I love to cycle. Something I don't talk a lot about, but over the last 3 years, I've lost 140 pounds. And so as part of that process, changing my life and my lifestyle, started cycling. And so I love being on the roads. I love biking and road biking. And so this year I'm like, I'm going to start putting in 100 something miles a week. And I did my first 100-mile ride. And so those are things I wouldn't have been able to do if I was on the road for 300 days. So I just have chosen and continue to try to look at it differently as a gift, be able to account for it. And like Sarah was saying, sometimes that the input is part of the process. It can be that too. The read the book, listen to the music, spend the time sitting on the patio. I have 2 pups that I love, that I just love to spend time with them. Your kids, whatever it is, look at it as a gift. Like Mike said, push them on the swing, because those are things you're not going to get back. And we'll look back at this time whenever we go back to whatever new normal is. And we want to be able to accommodate or account for it and look at it in a way like, man, I got to do a bunch of things I wouldn't have been able to do otherwise. And I think there's a lot of value in that.
Amen.
Yeah, that's awesome. That is awesome. I hear a lot of thankfulness in everyone's why. Sarah.
Why? I think for me, like I said, I do struggle with anxiety and depression, and I think there's a lot of people out there that do. And so it's been really motivating for me to kind of dig into that in a way and try to motivate some people to, I started out doing a lot of body positivity posts on my Instagram, and I've been doing that for years. And being able to kind of also express that side of myself and have people be like, I feel that way too, has been something that has been really motivating to me during this time. But I've also been able to do things like that I've never gotten to do. Like I bought a bicycle and I've been riding, and that's been amazing, like a road bike. And I used to do that when I was younger and I lived in Chicago. So there's been a lot of time doing things that I didn't necessarily have the time to do before. And there have been moments where I definitely feel like this has been a gift. But that being said, I do feel like we probably have people watching here today who are watching because they are looking for that inspiration, and they're looking for maybe that they're looking for their own why. And I think that can be a really difficult question to answer. In full transparency, I'm still not there yet. I really don't know.
Yeah, but the awesome thing is, I would consider you guys a group of people who are successfully pandemicking, if I could say it like that. And I personally feel like that's because there's been a lot of confrontation tied with this business. He was talking about how the hourglass, but it's not saying it's money. You got to confront the situation. And I got a really, I guess I call him my mentor now, a guy I look up to named Miles. He works with On-Site, and he wrote something yesterday, and it said, we can't solve problems that we don't understand. And this pandemic has been a time for us to face race relations, my work relations, relations with my wife, relations with my kids, my relationship with my identity. So there's been a lot of confrontation, but I look at it just like lifting weights. Like if you're doing 20 push-ups, you're only really going to benefit from the last 3 because that's when the muscle is broken and you're pushing and you're tired and you're breaking the muscle. When it comes back, you're stronger. So 2020 has been those last 5 reps, just confrontation and getting broken down. And when we build back up, we will be stronger if we confront it and stay in the exercise, if that makes sense. So we got a few minutes left, and really quick, I just want to go around and give everybody a chance to just speak to someone who's trying to pivot, right? When I think about, for me, because I'm an ex-football player, when I think about pivoting, I think about Barry Sanders. He was the best running back because he could literally run at a certain angle and pivot and stay the same speed. He didn't need to slow down to pick back up. You know, he could just pivot, right? So when it comes to us, what would you guys, how would you speak into someone who's looking to pivot and not really slow down? They're looking to use the transferable skills, or maybe they're having a tough time with anxiety or not being creative during this time. But like, I want to give you a chance to just leave the people with one final thought. We'll start with Mike.
Ah, man, come on. The best part about this is that I think we were all moving so fast, right? We were all moving so fast in life, whether it was our personal lives or whether it was like in our business lives, and it was just all happening so fast. And the nice part about this 6 months is that we've had an opportunity to sort of get our process under order. I know for me, It was just so like grab what you can get, and just do whatever it takes to get the thing done, whatever it was. And you didn't always feel good about the way it happened when you were done with it, right? Like you got through it, and when the next one comes, you're gonna have the same problem. And so this was a good chance for me to kind of get my process, whether it was like our business process, which was how do we hire, what does everybody do, you know, how does a show flow through the funnel, whatever that is, or through like my personal life, which was like just bill paying, or, you know, savings, or what am I doing with my own personal money? Like at some point I had to like really look at all of that and decide like, what is my personal process? And so this time really gave me a good opportunity to set all that in place so that going forward, I feel really good about where I'm at today as a man, as, you know, as a leader of a company, and as a father.
Yeah, that's awesome. Know your process, be aware of it, and figure it out. That's good. Todd.
I got to think about it. I'd say perspective for somebody out there would be the main thing. Have some perspective about time. 1918 turned into 1919, and 1919 turned into 1920. And we're living through these times. There will be a new normal. And, you know, kind of what Sarah was saying as well, you know, breathe, be yourself. Don't feel like you have to do anything. Like whatever your thing is, take the time to be present in the moment and know that this is all going to pass, and have that perspective. You know, if you have a fire lit within you to go do something, by God, make it happen. You know what I mean? Head in the sky, feet on the ground. But if you don't, that's okay too. Just surviving through this, taking time for yourself, and just keep that perspective, because time goes, the older we get, the faster it goes. And that'd be the main thing I'd say to somebody.
That's awesome. Perspective. Zito.
Yeah.
What would you lead the people with?
A lot of folks have said to me, wow, it's so easy. It's so cool to see you pivot. You're so lucky and I'm thankful. And one thing like I said earlier, I didn't set out to do a bakery. This is something I've dreamed about doing. You got to just move. You got to walk forward. You got to go through the process. you never know how it's going to come or what format it's going to come in, but you're not going to find it by just sitting there. I mean, I thought 1,000 different ways, and what am I going to do? How am I going to do this? What could I do? Everything I've ever done was and I could have given you a list if you asked me back in January of the 10 things I would do if I wasn't on the road. But if you told me that I couldn't do anything related to the music industry, I would have been stumped, and I'm still stumped. So I never expected this. And it's just from moving forward and the opportunities that are coming to me. And one last thing, not to be political, but treat others with love, respect. A lot of people deal with this time. I'm on all of the forums for road personnel, and I just see so much anger and frustration and lack of kindness towards our fellow man. And regardless of what you think or how you believe or how you feel, treat each other compassionately. Everybody's dealing with their stress and in this time that is really hard on a lot of people. Some folks don't know how to express that and how to handle that, and it comes out in unhealthy ways. And you're never going to get anywhere by pointing the finger and yelling and screaming and treating each other poorly. So listen, smile, nod, empathy, compassion, love is going to get you a heck of a lot further than the other way.
That's awesome. Thank you, Zito, because I talk to my wife all the time. I'm like, babe, you can't go wrong with compassion. You can't go wrong with empathy. You definitely could go wrong with being self-righteous and feeling like your way is the way, but can't go wrong listening, right?
Yeah.
That's awesome, Zito. We'll finish up with Sarah. You're muted.
I did it. Okay. Sorry. My advice to people out there looking to pivot, but feeling like maybe they're having a tough time, is what Zito was saying about how he would have never thought that it would have come from him just baking. Like he just was doing something. So I guess what I would say is, although I want to stress again, you don't have a responsibility to do anything. Do not feel bad. Do not feel guilty. But if you want to, and you start to have those feelings that you should do something, don't overthink it. Just make a list and execute. Sometimes I have so much anxiety. I just make a list and execute. What do I need to do today? Well, I'm anxious about filming this and singing this and learning this song. And I know I have to practice, but I don't. And when am I going to get up? And I'm scrolling on the phone and I'm wasting my time. Just get up and execute. You're going to feel good. Go for a bike ride, take a shower, get dressed, execute. Just execute what you need to do, because at the end of the day, you're not going out. There's nowhere to go. You're going to be sitting in bed thinking, what I do today. And you were going to feel so good if you just execute whatever it is. If it's taking your kids to play on the playground, if it's baking cinnamon rolls, if it's working on writing, and maybe you don't get anywhere with what you wrote, whatever it is, make the list, execute 3 things on it. And I guarantee you will feel like at least, oh, wow, I did that. I can do this. Okay. And you'll climb up out of it.
Yeah. That is awesome. Movement. Just get moving. That's awesome. Thanks, Sarah.
Get moving, and we'll deal with what direction and what you're doing later. Just move.
Right. So this has been awesome. I just thank you guys personally. This has been just so much great information. And once again, I want to thank Danielle, the Music Cares, for doing this. It's been great. We got some great nuggets, just getting perspective, defining your process, identifying transferable skills, making sure you're just moving, lining up your priority list and perspective. And I think from the panel today, we saw a lot of gratefulness, a lot of gratefulness, not a lot of blaming. And it seems like things are moving in the right direction with the people here. And my heart bleeds, and I just want us all to use this time and not do the time, right? People say that to people in jail all the time, but like, we got to use this time so we look back, like Todd was saying. When we look back, did you do well with your time? You in 5 years, are you grateful for how you spent the time? So this has been awesome. I want to thank you guys for doing this, and I'm fired up. I'm about to go play some music for the first time in a long time, but hopefully you guys got something from the pivot. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks, Hubert.
Yeah, thanks, Hubert.
Thanks, Music Cares. Great organization.
Thank you, Music Cares. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, Music Cares, for having us be part of the conversation. And thank you for all that you do for the music industry.
Follow us on social media and tune in next time where we'll be live from the CTS Learning Lab.